Hi there. It is Saturday, October, is it the 10th? Yeah, Saturday, October 10th, around 11 o'clock. Just making a video. I had been gonna make a video. I haven't made one for a while, just kind of give you an update. And then I bought the paper yesterday. There's another article about me in it, so I figured I'd combine and make two videos, so it's probably gonna be kind of long. Obviously, I'm gonna be distracted as always. I've got 3 dogs running around. I actually made talking points. I made notes. And then I have the paper. This is the paper. I'm on there. And then it takes up most of the back page. So it's gonna be mostly me just addressing the newspaper article. So I've never had notes before, so I've never looked at notes when I record a video. No, you're good. And obviously I've never looked at a newspaper either. So I'm gonna be probably fussing with those and looking down and reading. And then I have this little black fuzzy heart that was attached to my purse. I have a bunch of these on my purse. But I took it off so I can play with it because I have trouble sitting still for long periods of time without doing something with my hands. And yes, my hair is down. I got it cut yesterday, so I just have it down. Wow, it looks red. Okay, anyways, I'm already distracted. So let's get in. So I just wanted to make it clear before I start the video that just because I'm commenting on things that were in the newspaper, I'm not passing any kind of judgment on John, who wrote the article, who owns the newspaper, or the other 5 individuals who came forward to help me. As I've said before, I respect them. They're decent, caring people, and I think the world of them. So, this isn't any kind of criticizing of their character or them. This is just literally me talking about what's in the newspaper. So, and the first thing I want to talk about is the headline. It says off the grid house. What's it say? Off the grid house flips 180 degrees. And depending on how he meant that, it could be true or it could be false. And I don't know how he meant it. So when I say it could be false, if he meant that I had changed my mind on accepting help or accepting money from the community, that would be false. Because at no time did I ever ask for help. Whether it be financial or help from the community, from contractors, or from other people who knew how to make repairs. At no time did I ever ask for any kind of help from anybody. So to do a 180, you need to have asked for it to begin with. So I didn't ask for the help. And in fact, I resisted it. I repeatedly said I wasn't comfortable with it. So that's how that headline could be false. If the way it could be true is if he's referring to my comments about regretting moving to Chadwick, that I had done a 180 about living here. That's completely true. I did say that when I walk, you're probably going to hear some barking soon. There's a squirrel on the roof. And it's now on the apple tree. Yeah, there goes Rainbow. I did say that when I walk Rainbow, I don't really feel anything but regret now about moving here over everything that has happened, and I would prefer just to be somewhere else. This is just not what I had anticipated. It's not what I had hoped for when I moved here. Um, when when I moved here, this was going to be it. This was going to be where I spent the rest of my life, and I envisioned being active in the community and in local government, and those things are not going to happen now. There's no way that I would ever involve myself in the local governments of this village. Um, so like I said, the headline, about flipping 180 could be true or it could be false. I don't know how he meant it. If, like I said, if he's referring to accepting the money and the help, which is probably what is intended, then that would be false. Because, like I said, I never asked for help. When one of the individuals she's quoted in the article, not about this though, but she was messaging me on the Monday, and then the next day is when everything fell apart. But she was asking me where I banked, and when I said where, she's like, well, why didn't you open an account in town? And I'm like, well, people in this town can't keep their mouth shut, so I don't want to take the risk that people at the bank can't keep their mouth shut either. So it's better safe than sorry. Everybody in this town seems to talk. You go to the post, if you want to know any gossip in town, you go to the post office. The lady in the post office knows everything. So yeah, and then she had been messaging me. I had been out running errands, and she wanted my consent to open a GoFundMe page, and I didn't even respond. I just showed up at her house, and I'm like, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with any of this. I told her that I had had a conversation with the banker about the surplus, foreclosure surplus that I was going to get, and I had actually brought up buying a local business. I had a little bit of a heads up about a local business that was going to go for sale. It would have been extremely easy to run, very it wouldn't, I'd be able to do it kind of like work my hours around how I felt, and it would have been a good opportunity for me. So I had been in the bank. Was it just that day, or was it the week before? But I had been in there, saying, how can my surplus work for me? How can I make it work for both the house and looking into buying a business? And she wasn't able to help me because she only does residential loans. So she's like, you'd have to speak with the banker. But she's like, if I were you, I'd concentrate on paying your debt down. But yeah, I'd been in the bank, and when I said that to her, I'm like, how am I supposed to justify to people if I buy a business when they have just given me all this money and all this help to rehab the house? And her answer was, you don't deal with it. You just put it to the side. That's a completely separate issue. And not to me, it isn't. There's no justification. You don't take help from people giving you money thinking that you're having all these problems when you just talk to the banker about buying a business. Yeah, I am broke, but with the price that the business was and the money that I had from the surplus, I could have made it work. And so I told her I didn't feel right, and her answer was, just don't deal with it. Don't talk about it. Just, these are completely two separate issues. You take the money for the house, and then the business thing is its own thing. And it's like I'm not comfortable with it. So I never gave them the consent to open a GoFundMe account. I never gave them consent to open an account at the local bank. So yeah. So in regards to the 180 degree flip, I never flipped because I never asked for help. So that would completely nullify that. But and I didn't talk about any of this because it's just me working my options out, and it's not it's not anybody's business at this point. When I would be ready to talk about it, I would talk about it. So at this point, I'm not going to buy the business. I need to concentrate on the housing thing. But, it was an option. Like I said, I can't get money out of the house because of the board members' threats of eviction. So that option is closed for me. So I was looking for other options. What I wanted to address next, it's not really a big thing. It's a big thing to me, though. John had mentioned that I'd been living in a 12 by 20, which is correct, 12 by 20, but he said metal fabricated shed. It is not a metal fabricated shed. It's by a company called Everlast. They're an Amish company out of central Illinois. It's custom built. They took an existing plan and they made modifications that I wanted. It is very well built. It is not one of those sheds that you get out of a box. It's not, like he said, the metal fabricated shed. It is a very, very nice quality shed, and I don't feel right leaving that unaddressed. I'm very happy with the way the shed turned out. The people who built it put a lot of quality into it and a lot of workmanship, and I feel that I should do my best to represent them. I'm happy with the product I got, and I don't want, I don't know, I don't, it's not that they were bad mouth, it's just this isn't a metal fabricated shed. That makes it sound like a cheap piece of crap, and it's not. This is a very nice shed, and I'm very happy with the product I got, and I paid quite a bit of money for it. So so the next thing I wanted to talk about was there was it is in the paper. See, I don't like looking at that. Okay, so it says I reportedly posted a 45-minute long diatribe. I had to Google that word. Replete with significant vulgarities on social media, venting her outrage and frustration at the Chadwick Village Board and the village clerk. So, like I said, I had to Google diatribe. I'd never heard that word. Excellent use of vocabulary, John. I'm guessing the majority of your readers have no idea what that word means either. And its definition is a forceful and bitter verbal attack against someone or something. Possibly, I guess that would be a good word for it. The majority of my video, it sliced it because my phone, you can only record up to 38 minutes, and so it had reached the 38 minutes and then it cut, and then there was the second video. So there was part 1 and part 2 on YouTube. The first video, I'm pretty much talking exactly how I'm talking now. The second part is where I do become a little more animated, and I do tell the board members to grow the F up and stop acting like adult babies. But it isn't, it is not as bad as I think they would like people to believe. So, but I made that video, it was on, what was it, September 23rd, I think, and it was after the water department showed up unannounced, wanting to put the water meters on, and I had just gotten everything loaded to go to the laundromat, so I was leaving when they showed up, and they made no effort to call, say they were coming either that day or the day before. They just showed up unannounced, expecting that they could put the meters in, which takes around an hour or so from what I was told. So I had responded, not at this time, and then I sat down. Rather than going to the laundromat, I sat down and I made that video, which then after I was done, I went to the laundromat and did 5 loads of laundry. But that was the day after I found out that I had lost my ability to get a construction loan on the house. So I was still processing that information, was not happy. I lost the ability to get that loan because of the village's threats of eviction. And I cannot get that ability back unless the village lawyer writes a letter saying that they have no right to evict me. So I had made a video. It wasn't just about that. It was a video about how I ended up in this place. I talk about how I lost my my last home, and you know, all the things that brought me to this place, and how I had kept the village clerk and everybody informed, and then, you know, it got to the point where, you know, I lost my financing, and then just all this stuff that I'm going through with the village. And so that's what that video was about. And oh, there's a bee. Hopefully Rainbow doesn't try to eat it. But yeah, so and I did tell them, because you know, this whole thing is about some buckets and the fact that they don't understand the way I'm living and that I'm not living like everybody else. And you know, I did tell them to grow up and grow the F up and stop acting like adult babies. And they don't like it. And I'm guessing that if I had to guess, and this is just a guess, my opinion, I'm guessing that nobody else in this community has probably ever talked to them like that before, which is why their behavior has been allowed to continue for so long, because nobody ever addresses it. They have gone unchecked, basically. And you know, this has been going on for years. Board members leave because they can't get along with each other. So I may be the first person to ever publicly come out and check them for their behavior and call them out on it, and that would be understandable that they don't like it. So yeah, so yes, I did post a video. The majority of it was me speaking just as I am right now. It was only the last part where I did become animated, and I even ended the video saying, okay, I'm getting a little bit snarky, so I need to stop. So, but yeah, no, my use of vulgarity, as the article said, it's not something that people haven't heard before. I'm quite sure that the board members have used those words. So yeah. So, excuse me. So then the next thing, it was that when we had the meeting at my home on the 29th, on that Tuesday, that those offering to help me made it clear that they would not do so unless I deleted the postings and offered an apology to the board. It goes on to say that I agreed to remove my postings. However, she later recanted, saying she believed she had the constitutional right to free speech, and those pushing her to pull down her postings were infringing on that right. That's not true. I never agreed to delete the postings. When they brought that up at the meeting, when we were standing in the front yard and they brought it up, my first reaction was no. Because the first thing that went through my head is, if this does go to court, those postings are evidence. And you know, they're like, you need to remake your image in the community. You need to delete any postings where you talk about the village. And at that time, they actually did not talk about an apology letter. That came later that night when I talked to the attorney. He was the 5th gentleman that came on board, who was willing to help. He's an attorney, and he'd been talking to the village attorney, and so he brought that up much later that evening. So the apology to the village was not brought up at that afternoon meeting. Just me taking my postings down and remaking my image and getting on committee, community committee things and remaking my image. And I had said it doesn't matter what I do at this point. People's image of me is fixed. That's how this town is. So, but I never agreed to delete them. I was not happy that they asked me. Maybe that was perfectly clear, I'm sure, in my facial expressions and my body language. At the time, I had offered to mark them private. I had said that I would not delete them. I would leave them on my page, but I would, you know how you can change the setting where you can have them public, you can have them friends only, or you can have them private. And when they're private, they're only visible to you on your page. So that in itself would mean that I would not have deleted them. They still would have been there. So yeah, so that the most I was willing to give them, and thought I made it perfectly clear that I needed some time to think about this, would be to make them private. That was the most I was willing to do. But people, no, you go outside. But people tend to hear what they want to hear. And in moments in life, I've been guilty of the same thing. You expect a certain response, a response that you want, and so you convince yourself that you've heard something that you haven't heard. So I'm quite sure that when they say that I recanted, that they said that because they thought they heard that I agreed, when I didn't. The most I ever agreed to do was mark them private, and that was even up in the air. And so and I spent a lot of time that night thinking about it. I actually came close to giving them what they want. I shed tears over it because I didn't want to do it, because I've been documenting my entire journey, and that's part of the journey. But I finally made up my mind when I got the call from the lawyer, reminding me that I needed to take down those videos. And when he did, that's when he said that I needed to write the apology letter to the village for making those videos in the first place. And I'm like, excuse me? I'm like, are they going to be writing a letter to me apologizing for threats of eviction, for putting me through emotional distress, for dragging my name through the mud, the rumors? I'm like, are they going to be apologizing or writing me an apology for all of those things, and the loss of financing because of their actions? And he's like, no. And I'm like, yeah, no, they're not getting an apology letter from me. Sorry. And then the final nail in that coffin was when he said that that somebody had reported to the board members that he said, you have to stop using your burn barrel because you're burning garbage in it. And I'm like, excuse me? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, somebody reported you for burning garbage in your burn barrel. I'm like, I have not burned garbage in my burn barrel. No, I've burned wood, I've burned cardboard, and I've burned paper. As far as I'm aware, those are all things that is perfectly, I don't think legal is the right word, acceptable to burn in your burn barrel. The garbage bags that I have, they're still sitting on the side of the house. No time burned any garbage. And, I'm like, do you have any idea how many people in this town have burned barrels and fire pits? He's like, I know. I'm like, do you know how many people in this town actually have burned garbage? That I've been walking around and I've seen garbage bags in their burn piles. He's like, I know. I'm like, they're singling me out because of all of this. He's like, I know, but you have to just do it. And it's like, no, I don't. So that cemented my decision, and then I went on to write that that posting that I posted on Facebook Tuesday evening, pretty late. But but it was saying that I can't compromise my integrity for any amount of money. I'm not going to take down my videos. I'm not going to apologize to the board. I did apologize to the 5 members, saying that I am sorry that I couldn't give you what I want, but I'm not going to compromise my integrity. And it was more about not compromising my integrity. I did mention my constitutional rights, but that was kind of like an afterthought. And the paper makes it sound like that was the main reason that I wouldn't take down my videos, when really that's an afterthought. The majority of it has to do with not compromising my integrity, and the fact that I'm being unfairly targeted by the village. The village, there are so many people in this town right now doing home renovations. The village is not up their butts like they are mine, monitoring their progress. And I was told when they came out, sorry, my hair's still wet from showering. I didn't wash my hair, but it got wet. But you didn't need to know that, sorry. One of the things that I was told was that the problem that the village is having is that they don't see any progress being made on the house. And so I guess they missed when the new roof was put on, and I guess they missed when the fence was put on. And as for the rest that would be done on the house, that would happen inside. They wouldn't see it anyways. So yeah, I don't really understand that part, but I gotta keep moving. I'm at 26 minutes. I really don't want to have 2 videos. So okay, so then there's this one part I'm not really happy. It's one of the members, one of the 5 individuals. It has her name, Janice Parrish. She has posted several negative videos on her Facebook page about Chadwick and refuses to take them down, so we're not going to be involved in the matter at this time. I'm not happy that her name was used in the article. I never at any point mentioned the names of any of the 5 individuals because I did not think that was any business of anybody's. They were going out of their way to help me, and I figured that they were entitled to their privacy. But, perhaps she talked to John and she was okay with him using her name. I can only hope so. I would have never done it. She indicates about my negative videos. She had sent me a message that Tuesday night. It was immediately after I had posted my thoughts, and had said I wasn't willing to compromise my integrity. And she had indicated that she had watched 2.5 minutes of one of my videos. And I don't know, out of a 45-minute video, how watching 2.5 minutes of it gives you an idea of what the video is about, and makes you an expert. And maybe she's watched more at this time, but you could tell by her message that she wasn't inclined to watch the videos. So I don't know if she has taken the time to go through my videos and actually look at them. But in the paper she comes off that she's, I don't want to say an expert on my videos, but that she has seen the videos and they're not favorable. But so, and then these people were, like I said, very generous, and they were gifting their time and their money. And I looked online because I was curious, because they basically made this a gift with strings attached, and that's not something I would ever do. And so this was on the internet. Gift giving with strings attached is inherently self-centered and manipulative. We may claim to love, in this case, help, which I put that in, people, yet in reality we merely use them through our gift to gain something that is important to us. So that was, talking about gifts with strings attached, which is basically what they gave me. They offered help, but in exchange I would have to take down all postings, anything I had regarding the village of Chadwick, and I would have to write an apology. That's not a gift. Offers of help should not come with expectations or strings attached. They shouldn't. A gift is a gift. If you're going to offer your expertise, your time, your money, it's a gift. You don't put strings on there. So, yeah. So the next one is the village vice president, Kim Henricks, commented, "We are all about helping people in need, but we feel this situation is not the case. You cannot help those who will not help themselves, and I also feel your life is what you make of it. Everyone gets dealt a bad hand at some point in their life, but you need to pull up your boots and move on. Chadwick is not the place to live off the grid, and she has made several statements that's what she wants to do." I would love to live off the grid. And I made a video saying that would be the dream, but this is the reality. I know very well that I can't live off the grid in Chadwick. That was never the intention. This was a temporary situation while I rehabbed the house. So that is a false statement. And really, I just wanted to, I never shared this with anybody, I don't think, but in the spring, I had restructured the big loan that I have. I made it even bigger. I took several $1,000s out, and the reason I did that was to start the rehab. I had been on the phone with Mooring Waste Disposal, which is the garbage company out in this area. I had been talking to them about dumpster sizes. I knew that the large skid or dumpster or whatever it is that you see at construction sites, I knew it was $400. You got 2 weeks. I think they emptied it once during that 2 weeks. I had talked about the one that is 2 yards. You had to have a year contract for that one. And I had interviewed 2 contractors in the spring. But my uncle, he flipped houses for probably over 30 years. And he had given me an idea of what to expect on how much time it would take and what it should cost just to gut the main level, take the drywall out, take the insulation out, the carpet. It would have been an easy, I took it out of one room, so it would have been, pretty easy. And both of them quoted twice what it should have cost me and twice the time. And when I called them out on that, saying, my uncle does this stuff, and they were like, oh God, she knows somebody who has information. And so I had passed on them. And then it was shortly after that all this stuff with the city started. So I kind of put the starting the rehab process on hold. I broke off. Luckily, I hadn't signed the contract with the garbage disposal company because I was getting ready to. I was going to do the 2-yard one. So because I wasn't sure about the contractor. So, but yeah, I was all set this spring to start the rehab process myself with my money, not using anybody else's. And the village derailed that because then I had to stop. I couldn't go forward because then I had plumbing issues to deal with, and then the lady behind me ripped the electrical panel off, and so, other stuff just came up. So, yeah, no, she says that I cannot help myself. I'm perfectly capable of helping myself. This process, I started that back in April and May. It's October now. If they had just backed off and let me alone, the entire place would be gutted. The furnace and everything would be out of the basement, all that, the water heater, the sump pump. I probably would have had the electrical done, which then the first thing I would have gotten was a sump pump to prevent flooding. The next thing I would have done was to get the furnace going, and then the first room I was going to rehab was the bathroom because I knew I needed to get the bathroom working. So it's just so ironic that just this spring, before they even started interfering, I was literally starting the process without them But like I said, because they couldn't visibly see process, they thought I was just sitting on my arse doing nothing, when that's not the case, and all they would have had to do would be to contact me to know that. I would have been happy to share where I was in the process. But they did not. Um, and so, yeah, so I have a problem with saying that, with her saying that, though, you cannot help those that will not help themselves. I was in the process of starting the renovation, and it was just literally all I had to do was find the contractor. You know, even if I found one that ripped me off a little, as long as it wasn't twice what the other people were doing, you know, I would have gone with that person, male, female, I didn't care. I was getting the contractors list from, it's in Milledgeville, it's a place called Do It Best, and I was calling, you know, the contractors on there, just going through the list. And yeah, for contractors and local handymen. So yeah, I had started the process, and the only reason I stopped was because of the interference of the village. And then once they started threats of eviction, which started, was that in June or July? I'm not sure, but once they started threats of eviction, then I didn't do anything, because it's like, why should I put money into a house if they're just threatening to take it away from me? So it didn't make sense. So, and that's another huge reason why I didn't feel right about taking people's money, because I knew I had started to begin the process on my own, with my own money, without help from anybody. And would I have done it the same way as these people who have all these years of experience and all this knowledge? No, probably not. And I probably would have made mistakes along the way. But you know what? There is more than one path to a destination. That's just life. You can take dozens of different avenues and still end up at the same place. That's the beauty of life. None of us have to take the same path. So yeah. So if they would have just let me alone, or even just talked to me, odds are I probably would have had the rehab at least, you know, partially done to where the bathroom would have been usable. Now, if they just would have backed off. And I have to end this video because I'm at 37 minutes and 40 seconds, so it's gonna have to be two videos, part 1 and part 2. So this is part 1. Sorry, I would have preferred not to have this, but yeah, so let's stop it.